No one prepares you for this part of aging. Not the birthday cards, not the retirement parties, not even the doctors. We're taught to fear wrinkles and grey hair, but rarely the habits that quietly creep in and change how older people see the world and how the world sees them. Today's topic isn't meant to shame seniors, it's meant to wake us up. Because the ugliest parts of aging are often not physical, they're emotional, behavioral, and deeply human. First, many seniors become brutally honest to the point of cruelty. What once was speaking your mind turns into saying hurtful things without caring how they land. Second, there's a growing resistance to change. New ideas feel threatening, and this is how we've always done it becomes a wall no one can climb. One of the most uncomfortable changes that can happen with age is when honesty loses its heart. Many seniors reach a point where they proudly say, "I'm just telling the truth," but what they're really doing is speaking without empathy. The filter between thought and speech weakens, and kindness is often the first thing to disappear. What begins as confidence slowly turns into bluntness, advice becomes criticism, opinions become judgments, and feelings, especially other people's feelings, are dismissed as weakness. Seniors who once knew how to guide gently may now deliver their words like verdicts, forgetting that truth doesn't need to hurt to be real. This kind of honesty often comes from frustration. Years of being ignored, overlooked, or feeling irrelevant can build anger beneath the surface. Instead of expressing pain, it comes out as sharp words. "You're too sensitive. In my day, we didn't complain. That's just how life is." These statements shut down conversation rather than open it. The real damage isn't in what's said, it's in what it costs. Family members stop sharing. Friends stop visiting. Younger generations stop asking for advice. The senior feels isolated, not realizing their words built the wall around them. True wisdom knows the difference between honesty and harm. Compassion doesn't weaken truth, it strengthens it. Aging should bring softer edges, not sharper ones. Because the goal isn't to be right at the expense of relationships. The goal is to be heard, understood, and still loved. Growing older gives people authority, but it also demands responsibility. Words spoken without care don't make someone wise, they simply make them lonely. And loneliness is never the truth anyone wants to live with. One of the quiet but damaging habits that often develops with age is a deep resistance to change. It doesn't arrive loudly. It creeps in slowly, disguised as wisdom, experience, and tradition. Seniors begin to believe that because something worked before, it must always be the right way. "This is how we've always done it" becomes a shield against anything new. Technology, new values, modern lifestyles all start to feel like threats rather than tools. Learning feels exhausting. Adapting feels humiliating. So instead of curiosity, there's dismissal. Instead of conversation, there's criticism. Change is labeled as foolish, dangerous, or unnecessary. This resistance isn't really about stubbornness, it's about fear. Fear of becoming irrelevant, fear of not understanding the world anymore, fear of losing control in a society that no longer moves at a familiar pace. Rather than admitting that fear, it hardens into rigidity. But rigidity comes at a cost. When seniors refuse to adapt, they unintentionally push away younger generations. Grandchildren stop explaining. Children stop suggesting. Conversations become arguments instead of bridges. What could have been learning moments turn into emotional distance. The tragedy is that growth doesn't end with age. The brain doesn't shut down curiosity at retirement. The human spirit doesn't expire after a certain number of birthdays. Change doesn't erase experience, it expands it. The most respected elders are not the ones who cling to the past, but those who remain open to the present. Adaptability is not weakness, it's survival. And in a world that never stops moving, the ability to change is not a threat to dignity, it's proof of it. Because staying the same may feel safe, But refusing to grow is the fastest way to be left behind. As people age, memories often become more vivid than the present moment. For many seniors, the past starts to feel warmer, safer, and more meaningful than what's happening now. Old stories are told again and again, not always because of fading memory, but because those moments represent a time when they felt useful, respected, and alive. The danger begins when nostalgia turns into escape, instead of engaging with today's world. Some seniors retreat into yesterday's victories, yesterday's pain, and yesterday's identity. Back in my day becomes a constant comparison, and the present always comes up short. New music is noise, new values are nonsense, new struggles are dismissed as weakness. Living too much in the past can slowly poison relationships, conversations. Stop moving forward. Younger family members feel unheard because every discussion is hijacked by an old memory. Advice becomes outdated, yet is delivered with absolute certainty. The past is treated like proof that nothing new could possibly be better, but the past is not a place to live, it's a place to learn from. When seniors anchor their identity only in who they used to be, they miss the chance to discover who they still can become. Growth doesn't erase history, it builds on it. Clinging to the past is often rooted in fear of change, fear of decline, fear of being forgotten. Yet ironically, the more someone lives in the past, the more disconnected they become from the people around them. True wisdom knows how to honor memories without being trapped by them. Aging should add depth to life, not pause it, because the present still needs participation and the future still deserves curiosity, no matter how many years have already been lived. One of the most draining habits that can develop with age is constant complaining. It often begins quietly, small remarks about aches, weather, money, or how things aren't what they used to be. Over time, those remarks turn into a steady soundtrack of dissatisfaction that follows every conversation. For many seniors, complaining feels like bonding. It becomes a way to be heard, to express pain, or to confirm that life has been unfair. But when every interaction revolves around what's wrong, people start pulling away, not because they don't care, but because negativity is exhausting to carry. What's rarely acknowledged is that constant complaining can become an identity. Illness replaces personality. Grievance replaces gratitude. Every topic bends back to discomfort or disappointment. Even good news is met with a warning, a doubt, or a reminder of how it won't last. This habit is often rooted in loss of health, independence, relevance, or control. Complaining becomes the only remaining sense of power, proof that something still matters. But instead of drawing comfort, it isolates. Friends stop calling, family shortens visits, conversations become obligations rather than connections. The cruel irony is that complaining deepens loneliness, which then creates more reasons to complain. It becomes a self-feeding cycle that slowly shrinks a senior's world. Acknowledging pain is healthy, living inside it is not. Wisdom doesn't deny suffering, but it doesn't let suffering dominate every moment either. Gratitude doesn't erase hardship, it balances it. Aging will always bring challenges, but choosing what we focus on determines whether people want to walk beside us or quietly step away. Because no one avoids seniors due to age, they avoid emotional heaviness they're not allowed to escape. As some seniors grow older, love slowly becomes tangled with guilt. What once was care turns into obligation. Requests are no longer simple, they're loaded. After everything I've done for you becomes the opening line, and suddenly affection feels like a debt that can never be repaid. This behavior rarely comes from cruelty. It comes from fear of being abandoned, fear of losing relevance, fear of no longer being needed. Instead, of expressing that fear honestly. It's wrapped in guilt and handed to family members as a burden to carry. Adult children begin to feel trapped between responsibility and resentment. Every decision to move, to rest, to live their own life feels like betrayal. The senior may not even realize what they're doing, but the message is clear: love must be proven through sacrifice. Over time, this emotional pressure poisons relationships. Visits feel mandatory instead of joyful. Conversations become tense. Family members pull away not because they don't care, but because guilt is exhausting. And no one can live under constant emotional debt. The tragedy is that guilt-driven control creates the very loneliness it tries to prevent. The more a senior tightens their grip, the more others quietly loosen theirs. What was meant to secure love ends up suffocating it. True connection is built on choice, not obligation. Love given freely is stronger than love demanded. Aging should bring wisdom about relationships, not fear-driven manipulation. When seniors replace guilt with honest vulnerability, "I miss you, I'm scared, I need you," they open the door to real intimacy again. Because control pushes people away, but sincerity invites them back. Growing older doesn't mean losing love, but it does require learning how to hold it gently without squeezing the life out of it. One of the most silent yet damaging changes that can happen with age is emotional withdrawal. It doesn't look dramatic. There are no loud arguments or harsh words. Instead, it shows up as distance, fewer feelings shared, shorter answers. A quiet retreat behind phrases like "I'm fine" or "it doesn't matter." Many seniors learn, over a lifetime, that vulnerability is dangerous. They were taught to endure, not express. So when emotional pain increases with age loss, regret, fear, it feels safer to shut down than to open up. Feelings are buried, not healed, but emotional withdrawal slowly starves relationships. Family members feel locked out, unsure how to connect. Conversations stay shallow. Important moments are met with silence instead of warmth. What looks like strength from the outside is often deep loneliness on the inside. This withdrawal is often mistaken for wisdom or maturity. In reality, it's emotional exhaustion. After years of disappointment, some seniors stop trying to explain themselves. They stop asking for help. They stop believing anyone truly wants to hear what they feel. The cost is heavy. When emotions are suppressed, bitterness grows, misunderstandings multiply. Loved ones may assume the senior doesn't care when the truth is, they care too much and don't know how to show it anymore. Connection requires risk at every age. Emotional openness is not weakness, it's courage. Aging should bring emotional clarity, not emotional numbness. When seniors allow themselves to speak honestly about fear, sadness, or longing, something powerful happens. Walls soften. Relationships deepen. Healing becomes possible again because shutting down may feel like protection, but in the end, it protects no one. And the heart, no matter how old, was never meant to live in isolation. Independence is often worn like a badge of honor in old age. For many seniors, needing help feels like failure. Accepting assistance feels like surrender, so they insist. "I can manage," even when managing has become risky, painful, or unsafe. This stubborn independence is not about strength, it's about fear. Fear of losing control, fear of being seen as weak, fear of becoming a burden. After a lifetime of providing, protecting, and deciding, the idea of relying on others feels humiliating. But refusal has consequences. Seniors skip medical appointments, hide symptoms, refuse mobility aids, or continue dangerous routines just to prove they're still capable. What starts as pride slowly turns into self-neglect, and often, family members are left watching helplessly as preventable problems become crises. This behavior also strains relationships. Loved ones are pushed away when they try to help. Concern is met with anger, offers of support are seen as insults. Over time, caregivers stop asking not because they don't care, but because every attempt is met with resistance. The tragedy is that true independence doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means knowing when to adapt, knowing when accepting. Help preserves dignity instead of destroying it. Strength is not refusing support, it's choosing survival over pride. Aging requires redefining independence, not abandoning it. Independence can mean making smart choices, setting boundaries, and collaborating with others to stay safe and well. The strongest seniors are not the ones who deny their limits. They are the ones who recognize them and adjust wisely, because clinging to independence at all costs doesn't prove capability, it often proves fear, and fear, left unchallenged, can cost far more than pride ever could. One of the most damaging habits that can harden with age is the refusal to apologize. For some seniors, saying "I was wrong" feels unnecessary, even insulting. Years lived are treated like a shield, as if age itself excuses hurtful words, broken promises, or emotional damage. This mindset often sounds like wisdom, but it's really pride disguised as experience. Seniors may believe they've earned the right to speak freely without consequences. "I've lived longer than you. You'll understand when you're my age." These phrases shut down accountability instead of opening dialogue. Refusing to apologize slowly poisons relationships. Small hurts pile up. Resentment grows quietly. Family members stop confronting issues because they already know how it will end, with denial, defensiveness, or silence. Over time, distance replaces connection. What's rarely acknowledged is that apologizing does not reduce authority, it deepens respect. A sincere apology shows emotional maturity, not weakness. It tells others, "I value you more than my ego." But when seniors cling to being right, they sacrifice closeness. This refusal often comes from fear of losing status, fear of admitting mistakes that can no longer be fixed, fear of facing past regrets. So instead of healing old wounds, they pretend those wounds don't exist. The tragedy is that many seniors don't realize how powerful an apology can be. One honest sentence can repair years of tension. One moment of humility can reopen hearts that have slowly closed. Aging should bring accountability, not entitlement. Growth doesn't end when hair turns grey. Character is not measured by how long someone has lived, but by how willing they are to take responsibility for the pain they caused. As some seniors grow older, trust can quietly erode. What starts as caution can gradually become suspicion, coloring how they see everyone around them. Friends, family, even strangers are viewed through a lens of doubt. Why are they really doing this? What are they hiding? Who can I actually rely on? This growing suspicion often stems from life experience, decades of disappointment, betrayal, or unmet expectations can make older adults hyper-aware of potential threats. They've learned the world can be harsh, and they want to protect themselves. But when caution turns to constant distrust, it begins to isolate them. The problem is subtle but pervasive. Family members feel second-guessed, questioned, or unfairly judged. Simple acts of kindness are met with hesitation, misinterpreted as manipulation. Conversations that could build connection turn into debates over intent. Gradually, the very people who care most begin to pull away, not because of lack of love, but because suspicion creates tension and distance. This behavior can also harm mental health. Constantly scanning for hidden motives increases anxiety and stress. It prevents seniors from enjoying the present, trusting others, or forming new relationships. Over time, life becomes a series of imagined threats rather than real experiences. The truth is, trust is still possible at any age. It doesn't require naivety, it requires courage, accepting that mistakes or misunderstandings are part of human nature allows relationships to thrive, being open, even cautiously, invites connection rather than isolating oneself. Aging should bring discernment, not paranoia. True wisdom is knowing when to protect yourself and when to let others in. Suspicion may feel safe, but in the end, it often leaves the heart lonelier than any mistake ever could.